Which is worse when it comes to resisting temptation? Denying something completely, uh, preventing yourself from being tempted in the first place as much as possible, or hovering around it, continuing to engage with something, even though you know it'll stir further temptation within you. Uh, I was thinking, I read an article recently where it was I think they were just looking for things to complain about, but it was someone complaining about the fact that, Americans are not drinking as much alcohol as they used to. And, they were making it seem like it was this big overblown thing, and it wasn't, maybe they weren't saying it was a bad thing, but it was, the attitude seemed to be like, oh, this is an overreaction. And, I think that's a bit silly because, like, okay, are drinking, people are getting drunk less. I don't think I don't think that's a bad thing per se. And it was making me think about, how I don't drink anymore. I haven't drank for a long time. When I used to, when I was younger, I I would basically only, I would drink to excess. Like that was, um and that's not something I'm proud of, not something I encourage, but that is, that's kind of the way, like, my attitude towards it is like, if you are, the point of drinking is to get drunk, and again, I'm not, I don't do this anymore, and I'm definitely not encouraging anyone to, to embrace that attitude or anything, because I'm not proud of it. But I think that, that's still kind of my attitude for the most part, and that's why I don't drink anymore. That's why I don't, um, I don't indulge in anything else anymore either, because, I know a lot of people can, have a little bit of something, and they can kind of like hover around the periphery of a, maybe not an addiction, but a, something like something, intoxicating, something like a vice. They can kind of, they can have a little bit of it and like hover around the edge of it. I personally don't. That's just not the way my mind works. That's not the way uh, not the way I work personally, because that just feels like you're teasing yourself without any, without actually being able to ever satisfy yourself. And so, my personal attitude, I was thinking about this, is like my personal attitude is, if the choice is between like being teased and never satisfied, or just like living like a monk, I would prefer living like a monk. I would just prefer to deny the temptation as much as possible. But it made me curious. How do you feel about this? What do other people go through in this situation?